But back to 440, the freeway 440 being right next to that Parthenon. And I need to look. I was having a conversation with Todd Smith about it a while back. He's part of Selah. And I think he was telling me that there are some recording studios right off of 440. And so just spiritually, what will happen is you will see physical manifestations of what's happening spiritually over a city. Mm-hmm. And so it highlights the importance of paying attention to what you see in the physical realm, and then asking the Holy Spirit, okay, what's here spiritually? What's going on? How is that impacting the sounds that are coming forth from this land?
Yeah. A couple years ago, our church did an album recording at the Ryman downtown, and the Ryman was a huge revival location in the late 1800s. And it was special because it was, because now the Ryman is like a venue. Grand Ole Opry was there, and it's just been like, there's a ton of stuff that's happened. But one of the things that my pastor said at the beginning is like, we're returning this to its original design. And when you talk about Nashville, Music City, whatever, it's like, we seem to be returning the land back to its original design, which is to worship. Like, if we don't worship, the rocks will start worshiping. Like, that's what the land wants to do. Right. Everything wants to worship all the time. And you seem to be a really, really important voice, which is funny because I don't think you're like a musician.
I'm not at all.
Just
like, go figure.
Like,
how did I end up here?
But you're an important voice because you're actually teaching a lot of musicians how to not just write a song and publish it, but write things that will return the land to the original ancient order of worshiping God. And I mean, it makes me want to be, I always didn't want to be a musician, and it makes me grateful for the gift of music, because there's a partnership invitation if you understand what's happening. Anything you want to add? Because I'm just going to go off down my list of questions for her.
I just think it's really cool what you're doing. I think it's amazing. I love that you're in Salt Lake, but your impact on Nashville is citywide. Like, I've talked to a lot of musicians, and they know who you are. They're like, oh, we love Laura Sanger. And I mean, we've talked about this plenty of times, but even like the church I do worship at, because of your episode, like the stuff that you're doing has literally made it easier for us to get into, as we talked about on the show, like the presence of God, just from changing the frequency, the tuning that we tune our instruments to. We changed it to, I think we listened to the episode. 3 other people in my church listened to the same episode I was listening to that you did with Lori Creatures about 440 and the hertz and frequency stuff. And we changed it. And literally a couple weeks after we changed it from 440, I know you suggest 444, but I ended up doing 432, which ended up being great for me. People in our church started coming up to me, and literally these are just, some are older, some are younger, and they were like, hey, something changed. And we're used to the presence of the Lord showing up, but there's been something different that's happened in the past month and a half.
That's awesome.
And they had no idea that we had changed just the frequency. And that's literally, worship it changes culture. It changes everything. So I think it's really cool. And there's definitely a lot to unpack, but it's making a lot of impact already. So
well said. So frequency warfare, is that maybe how you could define it? How deep have you gone into like when that started in America? And the, like, specifically the frequency shifts that have happened. You can't even get like most recording gear to get into 444. I mean, you can, but it doesn't sound right. Like,
didn't one of your interfaces like break when you tried to record?
It doesn't break, but it doesn't work well. Like, it's very difficult to get it to move everything into 444. And then, like, if you're recording, you've got your in out that doesn't like moving things to 4. So you can move like software instruments to 444. If you're not a musician, you have no idea what we're talking about, but it's fine. But
freak to me.
it doesn't want to do it. It's almost like the hardware doesn't want to. It's not designed for it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay, why?
Well, so if we go back in the 1930s, the Rothschild-Rockefeller Alliance, they began funding scientific studies to look at how musical frequencies can prepare the masses for war. And that's because they wanted to control people. They want that mind control programming. And so in 1938, there was a gentleman named Harold Burroughs Meyer, and he was a theatrical designer and a sound engineer. And he began developing techniques that would control the emotional response of audiences and to create mass hysteria. And so from there, you have this, this Rockefeller-Rothschild alliance. What they were doing is not only were they looking at ways to steer the masses, but they wanted to change the standard tuning of A to 440 hertz. So in 1939, they began funding Joseph Goebbels, who was the Nazi propagandist. And at that time, Joseph Goebbels, he wanted to change the standard tuning of A. And so he organized a meeting in London to do that. Now, up until that time, the standard tuning of A was set at 435 hertz, and that was from a conference in Vienna in 1889. But they wanted to shift it to 440 hertz. And so Radio Berlin approached the British Standard Association and asked if they would organize this conference in London, which was a total setup in which, the powers that be had control of what the outcome was going to be. And they didn't invite any of the French musicians because they were opposed to 440 hertz. And then the organizers of the conference, they interviewed the musicians, the instrument makers, the physicists, and then also the sound engineers. And if any of those people were against 440 hertz, then they weren't invited to the conference. So it was all controlled. And, as a result, it's not surprising that the standard tuning of A was changed to 440 hertz. And that happened June 1939, just months before World War II broke out. And the timing of that is no coincidence because 440 hertz is a destructive frequency and that, it can retrain our thoughts towards disharmony, disruption, and disunity. And it really,
what year was this?
1939.
Okay.
Super quick.
So this was after have you looked at the Rife machine?
I have, yes.
This was after that, where you had that doctor using frequency to destroy bacteria.
Remember what year that the Rife was?
I have it pulled up. It's 1934. He used the machine. So I'll just read. He knew that everything vibrates at its own natural frequency, which we know this now through quantum physics. He believed that if he could discover the frequencies of disease-causing microorganisms, he could destroy them with the same vibrational frequency. And in 1934, he used the machine to cure 16 terminally ill patients with cancer. The first 14 recovered in 70 days. So he had all of this research, and then it sounds like 1939. So they would probably have been aware of this. So it might have been like war and sickness together. They wanted the world to be controllable.
Absolutely. Well, and I think they got rid of him, Royal Rife, is my hunch, is that they were the ones that took him out. Because, you know, he was curing cancer, and they couldn't have that because Rockefeller was big into pharmaceuticals, and that would destroy the pharmaceutical industry. So it's all interwoven for sure.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to ask, because especially for people who aren't musicians, I've tried to explain it, so I don't know how to do it well and make it simple. Do you know how to simply explain what is tuning A to 440? I have tried to explain it. When I tell people that, they have no idea what I'm talking about. Do you know how to explain that to a non-musician in a simple way?
As a musician, it would be hard. Let me ask Chet.
Can I give it a shot?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be
As
super
a non-musician?
Yeah,
that's the best person to explain it. Yes.
I'm so sorry. You'd be the best person to ask, actually.
Hopefully this makes sense, but my simple understanding is, like, if my son who's plays guitar, if he were to pick up his guitar and his tuner on his app, it's already set. All tuners are set to 440 hertz.
Right.
So when you go to tune your instrument, you know, you'll get the little green light that says, yes, the A.
In tune.
It's in tune. And you just go through all the strings. It's automatically tuning to 440 hertz. So what we found for him is there's a particular app, I think it's Guitar Tuna or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Where you can go into the setting and just change it to 444. And then you pick up your stringed instrument and you tune to that. And then you've automatically set your instrument to 444.
Yep, that makes sense.
The mechanical view is like, it's basically how many times per second something is like vibrating. So like a guitar, everything we hear is basically stuff bouncing off of stuff. I don't know if you've done the studies on, like, technically sounds never die, ever. They
believe that.
They go lower and lower and lower. But so like what we're saying right now is a vibrational frequency hitting the air and bouncing off. It's bouncing off of this, and so you're capturing it, and then that's sending a vibration out, and so it's there forever. So it gets, the bounces get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, but it never fully goes away. So this would be controversial, but everything true is controversial. So I would assume it's true. Like the things that were said 5,000 years ago are still just bouncing around.